The story opens with our protagonist, Sun Jae-hoon, who won an impressive 45.6 billion won, $31 million, in the previous season of Squid Game. Now he's about to leave South Korea for the US to reunite with his daughter. However, at the subway station, he notices the salesman from Squid Game attempting to recruit another unsuspecting person. This hits Jae-hoon hard, especially when the salesman spots him as well. In a surprising turn, Jae-hoon cancels his flight at the last minute. Shortly after, he receives a call from the salesman, warning him that he will regret not boarding the plane. But Jae-hoon is resolute and vows to track him down no matter what. Confused about how the game's organizers seem to know everything about him, Jae-hoon embarks on a mission. He rides a cab to a public restroom and checks his body for any tracking devices. After some searching, he finds a microchip in his ear and swiftly flushes it away. In another scene, Detective Jun-ho regains consciousness in a hospital. We learn he had infiltrated Squid Game Island in search of his missing brother, only to be shocked when his brother reveals himself as the frontman of the game and shoots him. 2 years later, Jun-ho is working as a traffic cop. After a conversation with his boss, Jun-ho tries to explain the deadly game, but his boss refuses to believe him without proof. He also inquires about the man who shot him, but Jun-ho pretends not to remember, knowing it was his own brother. Later that night, Jae-hoon wakes up from a nightmare and hears a buzzing noise in his motel room. He looks outside and spots his old contact, Mr. Kim. Jae-hoon has now hired him to track down the Squid Game recruiters. Mr. Kim shares that they've been watching subway stations for the last 2 years without seeing any suspicious activity, which disappoints Jae-hoon. Still, Jae-hoon remains hopeful the salesman will eventually appear. He gives Mr. Kim a large sum of money to hire a team for the search. The next day, Mr. Kim and his assistant Wak gather a group of men. Wak instructs them to look for a man in a suit who plays a game called Daki with strangers, handing out invitation cards. The search is expanded to train stations and airports, with a hefty bonus of 500 million won, $340,000, for anyone who finds the salesman. Excited by the offer, the men disperse across the city to search. Days pass, but the team comes up empty, which leaves them frustrated. One evening, Mr. Kim and Wak sit exhausted at a train station, questioning whether the salesman even exists. Wak suggests they may have been searching for someone who isn't real, but Mr. Kim insists Jae-hoon wouldn't spend billions searching for a phantom. Just then, they hear a noise and to their shock find the salesman. He is playing Daki with a man and hands him an invitation card. Mr. Kim immediately contacts Jae-hoon with the news, and Jae-hoon, thrilled, instructs them to follow the salesman. The salesman visits a bakery to buy bread rolls and 100 lottery cards before heading to a park. There he offers a lottery card and a bread roll to a homeless man, telling him he can only choose one. After scratching the card and losing, the man watches in regret as the salesman walks away with all the bread. The salesman repeats this process with other homeless people, most of whom also lose. He eventually throws all the food on the ground, and when a hungry man questions his actions, the salesman explains they made the wrong choice. In a fit of anger, he stomps on the food, shocking everyone around him. Meanwhile, Jae-hoon is racing to the park, but gets pulled over by a traffic officer for speeding. It turns out the officer is Jun-ho, but he lets his partner handle the situation. The salesman, still under surveillance, gets into a taxi. Mr. Kim and Wak continue to track him while updating Jae-hoon. Jae-hoon quickly accepts the fine and leaves without a word. The officer later tells Jun-ho about the incident, and when Jun-ho sees Jae-hoon's ID, he is shocked to recognize him. Mr. Kim and Wak finally corner the salesman in an alley, attempting to subdue him, but he effortlessly knocks them out. Jun-ho, on the other hand, searches Jae-hoon's name in the police database. When he sees Jae-hoon's picture, he instantly recognizes him from their previous encounter. Jun-ho, determined to find the salesman, writes down the vehicle's license plate and heads out in pursuit. Meanwhile, Jae-hoon arrives at the alley where his men were last seen, but they are nowhere to be found. He calls Mr. Kim repeatedly, but there's no answer. His anxiety grows when he discovers bloodstains and a sharp knife, which unnerves him further. In a different location, Mr. Kim and Wak are bound and gagged in chairs. The salesman enters, announcing that they'll play a twisted version of rock, paper, scissors called Rock, Paper, Scissors -1. The rules are simple yet deadly. Each player must choose 2 options with both hands, then take one away at the last moment. This is followed by the infamous Russian roulette. The salesman loads a single bullet into a 6-shot revolver and spins the cylinder. He explains that the loser of the game will have to face the revolver's trigger, with a 1 in 6 chance of ending their life. The game proceeds, but despite several rounds, neither man is shot. Growing impatient, the salesman loads 4 more bullets into the revolver, making the odds 5 out of 6. In the final round, Wak picks rock, while Mr. Kim opts for both scissors and paper. Mr. Kim could win by choosing paper, but in a selfless act he holds onto both choices, resulting in his disqualification. Amused, the salesman shoots him in the head, ending the game. Back at his motel, Jae-hoon is stunned to find the salesman waiting for him. The salesman once again tells Jae-hoon he should have gotten on the plane, but Jae-hoon, determined, declares he wants to meet the Squid Game organizers in person. He tells the salesman he wants to thank them for the life-changing money they gave him. The salesman claims to be just a messenger capable of passing along a message, but Jae-hoon retorts that he's nothing more than a dog following orders. Enraged, the salesman challenges Jae-hoon to a game of Russian roulette. The stakes are raised when the salesman refuses to spin the cylinder, ensuring that the single bullet will fire by the 6th round, guaranteeing one of their deaths. Jae-hoon, eager to prove himself, agrees without hesitation, and the game begins. As the rounds pass, neither man is shot, escalating the tension. By the 5th round, it's Jae-hoon's turn. The salesman mentions that he has something in his pocket that could lead him to the game's organizers, but warns Jae-hoon that taking that path will mark him as a loser forever. Undeterred, Jae-hoon fires the trigger, but miraculously, he survives. Now with the final round upon them, the salesman is certain to die. Jae-hoon points out that they are in the same situation and the salesman must choose, follow the rules or shoot Jae-hoon dead. Jae-hoon taunts the salesman, calling him a dog who's nothing without his master. In a final act of frustration, the salesman shoots himself, ending his life with a twisted sense of dignity. Outside, Juno, who's been monitoring Jae-hoon, hears the gunshot and rushes inside. He finds Wak tied up in one of the rooms and frees him. Wak in turn tells Juno about Jae-hoon's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Jae-hoon discovers an envelope in the dead man's pocket, and just as he's examining it, Juno enters and is shocked by the scene. He immediately informs Jae-hoon that he's under arrest for murder. However, Wak knocks Juno out using a fire extinguisher. Wak then reveals he's Mr. Kim's right-hand man and has been helping him track the salesman for 2 years. He breaks down in tears, recounting how his boss was killed. Jae-hoon finds a card in the envelope which reads Club HDH, October 31st, midnight. Meanwhile, we meet a woman named Kang-in, who's sleeping in her car when a traffic officer wakes her up. He warns her not to sleep in the car again, and though she apologizes and explains she works at an amusement park, he gives her a final warning. Back at the motel, Jae-hoon ties Juno up in the bathroom, assuring him that he didn't kill the salesman. The two discuss their past encounters, including one on the island and another when Juno was searching for his missing brother. Juno reveals he still hasn't found his brother, but leaves out the fact that his sibling is the frontman of the Squid Game. Jae-hoon shares his intent to stop the game for good and is determined to find its organizers. Juno offers his help, having recognized a VIP's face on the island. He suggests they work together to achieve their goals. Jae-hoon then shows them a room filled with billions of won in cash, explaining that they'll use this money to take down those behind the deadly game. He takes them to another room filled with expensive weapons and firearms, with a secret chamber inside. He tells Juno that he's welcome to practice with the weapons but must quit his police job if he wants to join their mission. The scene shifts to the amusement park, where Kang-in is dressed as a pink bunny entertaining children. Later, as the workers remove their mascot costumes in the dressing room, a little girl gives a drawing of a pink bunny. When the girl notices one of the workers swearing without a mask, she gets scared and starts crying. Her father quickly takes her away and then learns from a coworker that the girl is suffering from leukemia. It later visits a smuggler's office where it's revealed that she fled North Korea some time ago, abandoning her daughter there. Desperately searching for her child, Anne offers all her savings to the smuggler, who tells her the girl is likely dead since she was just a baby when Anne left. That night, Anne, sitting in her car, drinks while looking at a photo of her family. Suddenly, someone knocks on her window and hands her an invitation card for the Squid Game. The next day, Anne returns to work at the amusement park, entertaining children once again. But at the end of her shift, she unexpectedly submits her resignation letter. As Anne leaves the amusement park, she notices the leukemia-stricken girl being loaded into an ambulance. The unconscious girl drops her strawberry hat, which Anne picks up. Meanwhile, at the motel, a dentist removes one of Juno's teeth and replaces it with a prosthetic one that contains a GPS tracker, allowing Jae-hoon's friends to track him. Later, Anne arrives at the hospital and overhears a conversation between the doctor and the girl's father. The girl urgently needs a bone marrow transplant, but it's not covered by insurance and is too expensive. Anne approaches the girl, holds her hand for a while, and quietly returns the strawberry hat before leaving. Meanwhile, Juno has assembled a special forces team with combat experience, and they're training at Jae-hoon's place. They decide to head to Club HDH, but Jae-hoon tells Juno to stay outside as the game organizers have already seen his face on the island. Jae-hoon and Wak proceed to enter the club, leaving the team outside, and calls the number on her invitation card for the Squid Game, confirming her details and receiving a location. She's instructed to be there on October 31st at midnight. At Club HDH, a Halloween party is in full swing. Jae-hoon and Wak cautiously enter with Wak wearing a mask to blend in. Outside, Juno notices two men dressed in pink jumpsuits, which immediately alarms him. He decides to follow them to the club and inform his team. Inside, Jae-hoon is approached by a guard in pink, who leads him away. Wak tries to follow, but another guard chases him. By the time Juno arrives, Jae-hoon is already gone, leaving only an unconscious Wak. Juno realizes Jae-hoon got into a white limo, so he orders his team to tail a vehicle. Inside the limo, Jae-hoon finds it empty but hears the frontman's voice through a golden piggy bank speaker. The frontman asks why Jae-hoon has been looking for him, and Jae-hoon reveals that he wants to end the game. The frontman argues that all players joined willingly, calling them trash with nothing left in their lives. Meanwhile, the team tailing the limo realizes they're just driving in circles. Suddenly, a sniper station on a building blows out their tires and Junho's car is damaged by an explosive. Jae-hoon overhears this through his earpiece and shoots at the privacy screen in front, demanding the frontman stop the limo. The frontman seems indifferent, so Jae-hoon, desperate, claims he wants to participate in the game again. This confuses the frontman, who points out that Jae-hoon had just been talking about stopping the game. Jae-hoon argues that his return as last year's winner would be highly entertaining for the VIP clients, which convinces the frontman to consider it. The frontman ultimately agrees, but soon gas fills the back of the limo, knocking Jae-hoon unconscious. The privacy screen lowers, revealing that the frontman had been in the limo the entire time. Juno, who has been listening to everything, informs his team that Plan B is now in effect. Elsewhere, and arrives at the specified location and sees trucks parked there. She enters one of the trucks, steps into a cabin, and as the episode concludes, it's revealed that An is not a contestant in the game but a brutal security guard dressed in a pink jumpsuit. The question remains, will Jae-hoon succeed, given that he already knows the rules of the Squid Game? Will he save the participants? Stay tuned for the next recap. Thanks for watching, get us to 500 likes for another recap of the show, and I'll see you in the next video.